We transform healthcare professionals into data-driven decision makers. We help those who have no experience into becoming an industry expert. This is Dr. Data Insight, where your knowledge becomes skill, and we show you exactly how to build a real healthcare analytics career. The NHS is a complex, multi-layered network. Therefore, intricate knowledge of the healthcare system creates a distinction in your application of analytics and truly being successful in interviews. Now let's make sense of the structure. The NHS in England isn't a single central organization. It's a network of bodies that work together to deliver care across the country. Here are the key players you'll hear about again and again. NHS England, NHSE. This is the national body. It sets strategic priorities, allocates funding, and commissions major services, like screening programs, specialist care, and digital transformation initiatives. Integrated Care Boards, ICBs. ICBs operate regionally. Their role is to coordinate care across local areas, linking hospitals, mental health services, community clinics, and sometimes even voluntary sector partners. As a data analyst, you'll often be supporting ICBs in tackling system-wide challenges like reducing waiting times, improving access, or addressing health inequalities in a local population. Next is Key and Valuable Provider of Services, NHS trusts and foundation trusts. These are the frontline providers. When you go into A&E, receive inpatient treatment, or access district nursing, it's delivered by a trust. Analysts in trusts typically focus on operational performance, clinical outcomes, financial efficiency, and regulatory targets. The next key player is general practice. GPs are usually the first point of contact for patients. While they're considered part of the NHS, most GP practices are independently contracted, not employed by the NHS directly. This creates a unique dynamic. GP data is essential for understanding long-term conditions, prevention, and early intervention. But it's often held separately and governed under stricter data sharing agreements. As an analyst, learning how primary care data connects to secondary care is key to seeing the full patient journey. Private healthcare. Although the NHS is the primary provider of care in the UK, private healthcare runs alongside it, offering services that patients can pay for directly or access via insurance. While private providers are not funded through general taxation, they sometimes contract with the NHS to deliver services, especially during periods of high demand. You may encounter private provider data when analyzing elective surgery volumes, waiting list initiatives, or outsourced diagnostics. The data you work with will often cross these organizational boundaries. You might start with hospital records, then pull in GP data to understand comorbidities, or incorporate private provider data to assess capacity. Knowing who does what and how they connect helps you ensure your insights are accurate, complete, and actionable, from a local ward all the way to national policy. The NHS is undergoing structural changes, including a proposed merger between NHS England and the Department of Health and Social Care, DHSC, which may reshape commissioning, oversight, and data governance. Every shift brings new data flows, reporting needs, and opportunities to drive meaningful improvements across the system. Welcome to Module 2, and welcome to the reality of healthcare analytics. Data is everywhere, but insight is rare. In this module, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the systems behind NHS informatics. How it's created, what it includes, how we access it, and how to treat it with the respect it deserves. You cannot become a great analyst by just knowing tools. You must understand the origin, meaning, and limitations of the data you're working with. So let's look into our data sources. The NHS is one of the most data-rich healthcare systems in the world. Each day, it generates over 1.3 billion new data points. That's 15,000 per second, covering everything from A&E arrivals to GP prescriptions, lab results to bed occupancy. But here's the catch. This data is fragmented across hundreds of systems and dozens of datasets. Your job is to connect the dots. Among the many healthcare datasets, there are 5 foundational datasets every NHS analyst should master. They each represent a different lens on patient care. Some are transactional, others are analytical. Some tell you what happened, others hint at why. Hospital Episode Statistics, HES, is the flagship dataset for NHS analysts. It contains records for every inpatient stay, outpatient appointment, and A&E visit in England, going back over 2 decades. In 2023 alone, HES recorded 17.4 million hospital admissions, 122 million outpatient appointments, 22.5 million A&E attendances, including details such as the diagnosis codes and procedures codes, age, gender, admitted and discharge hospital, consultant specialty, and much more. But here's the downside. It's not real time. There's a 60-90 day lag, so it's better for trend analysis, not immediate decision making. Secondary uses services, SUS, is your raw transaction stream. The data before it's cleaned, aggregated, or anonymized. Think of it as the live feed powering NHS finance, commissioning, and cost recovery. SUS is updated daily or weekly depending on the trust. It's used to calculate payment by results, PBR, so data accuracy here directly affects funding. SUS and HES work together. SUS is live and operational. HES is cleaned and historical. Referral to treatment, RTT, is the dataset behind the NHS's most scrutinized metric, the 18-week constitutional standard. It tracks a patient's journey from GP referral to first treatment. For example, in April 2024, only 58.3% of patients were treated within 18 weeks, well below the 92% target. Over 7.5 million people were on waiting lists. RTT helps answer, where are the delays, which specialties are breaching, are pathway milestones being met? But beware, RTT data varies heavily by trust and can be prone to clock start-stop inconsistencies. In the Emergency Care Dataset, ECDS, you'll find arrival mode, clinical observations investigations, treatment and discharge status. In 2023, over 25 million emergency attendances were logged. Just 58% of patients were seen within 4 hours, against the 95% target. Analysts use ECDS to model demand spikes, ambulance handovers, and breach causes. Now let's mention one dataset that sits in the many other valuable ones as our fifth foundational datasets. SLAM, the dataset that sits at the heart of NHS finance and contracting. SLAM stands for Service Level Agreement Monitoring. It's how trusts and commissioners track what care was delivered, at what cost, and against which contract. You can think of it as the monthly financial mirror of the activity you've seen in SUS and HES, but presented through a commissioning lens. This is the dataset used to raise queries, trigger challenges, and reconcile payments. Missed or miscoded activity here can mean hundreds of thousands of pounds lost or disputed. All of these datasets are underpinned by clinical coding. For example, you've got a raw patient record, which shows someone's admitted, diagnosed, treated, and discharged. But none of that data is billable until it's structured, coded, and grouped. That's where clinical coding and health resource groups, HRGs, come in. Let's break it down. So what's coded? Diagnoses using ICD codes, which stands for International Classification of Diseases. Procedures using OPCS codes, which stands for Office of Population Censuses and Surveys. Classification of interventions and procedures, consultant specialty, using treatment function codes. And this is configured with other fields into Deforma HRG. Every HRG comes with a national average cost and a spell level or procedure level payment rate. Coding accuracy impacts 100% of payment. Under the national tariff audits show average revenue leakage of 2 to 5% per trust, due to undercoding or misclassification. Analyst tips. Cross-check for code completeness. Empty or invalid codes cause HRG assignment failures. Let me show you how these datasets work together. You notice a breach in RTT for orthopedics, so you check HES to validate theater activity, and ECDS to look at associated emergency readmissions. Or your finance team flags underperformance. You compare SUS claims versus HES submissions and investigate potential coding gaps in SLAM. This is where the role of the analyst shifts from reporting to storytelling. Data isn't just for counting. It's for course correcting and making valuable decisions that drives real change. So let's remind ourselves of the key national datasets we have covered. 1. SLAM tracks activity and costing under service level agreements. Second dataset, SUS, the foundation for NHS data processing, primarily used for payments and commissioning. Third, we covered HES, which captures detailed records of hospital care, including admissions, outpatient visits, and A&E. Fourth dataset, RTT, monitors patient waiting times from referral to the start of treatment. Finally, ECDS provides real-time emergency care data to support urgent care delivery. The ability to navigate and communicate with these datasets creates a real advantage in healthcare analytics. Even basic awareness signals you're ready to contribute, and that distinction can make all the difference when breaking into the field. Welcome to Module 3, where we move from understanding what NHS data is to how we actually work with it day to day. Let me be clear. Healthcare analysts don't need to be full-stack developers or machine learning experts to make an impact, but you do need a strong working knowledge of the core tools that allow you to extract, clean, explore, and present NHS data. In this module, I'll walk you through the essential toolkit for healthcare analysts: Excel, SQL, and Power BI, and how they work together to turn raw data into operational insights and decision-ready outputs. Before we dive into each one, it's important to understand how these tools interact. SQL is where you extract and join, often from big, raw datasets like SUS, RTT, or local data warehouses. Excel is your sandbox, ideal for data cleaning, exploration, quick analysis, and spreadsheet modeling. Power BI and Tableau is your window to the world. It turns analysis into accessible, dynamic visuals for stakeholders. Think of SQL as the kitchen, Excel as your prep station, and Power BI as the beautifully plated dish. In most NHS BI teams, you'll move across all three daily, especially if you're working with trust performance, ICB planning, or national submissions. To some, Excel may seem outdated, but in healthcare, it's still the most widely used tool across the NHS. Here's why. It's flexible, fast, and accessible. Everyone from a ward manager to a finance director uses it. You can clean, transform, and analyze data without needing to code. It's often the first place data lands, even before it enters a data warehouse. Key skills you need in Excel: data cleaning. Remove duplicates, data types, text functions. Formulas: VLOOKUP, IF, COUNTIFs, and index match. Pivot tables for summarizing information and building interactive reports. Conditional formatting for highlight breaches or underperformance at a glance. Data validation for dropdowns in operational templates. Power Query is a must for repeatable data transformation workflows. Real-world use case: you might use Excel to cleanse RTT pathway data coming in from various specialties, flag errors and breach dates, and then feed it into a consolidated return, all using pivot tables, filters, and basic formula logic. SQL, your gateway to NHS databases, the true workhorse of healthcare data analysis, helping you query and join data tables. Most NHS data, especially from large systems, sits in relational databases. Core SQL skills: you'll use select, from, where, the foundation of all queries. Joins: combine patient demographics with episode data, referral details, and more. Group by plus, count sum, aggregate performance by specialty, weak, trust. Case when: build logic into your queries, e.g. RTT clock status, CTEs, and subqueries. Great for breaking down complex logic. Example, task: let's say you're asked to report on the number of patients waiting over 18 weeks by specialty and hospital. You'd use SQL to extract relevant RTT data, filter for breach status, group by specialty, and export the result into Excel or Power BI. Tip: learn to write readable queries. Comment your code and use table aliases. It makes collaboration easier and errors easier to trace. Power BI is where analysis becomes insight, and insight becomes influence. It's a powerful, interactive dashboarding tool that allows you to create real-time reports that refresh from SQL or Excel sources, build drill-through pages so managers can explore data on their terms, highlight KPI breaches, trends, and performance trajectories visually, build accessible dashboards for operational teams, executives, or even public reports. Essential concepts: data modeling, relationships between fact and dimension tables, e.g. activity and specialty. DAX, for custom metrics like breach rates or YTD comparisons. Filters, slicers, and bookmarks for interactive reporting. Themes and layout. Clarity is key. A well-designed dashboard with clear visualizations builds trust. NHS example: you might build a dashboard showing A&E 4-hour wait performance, broken down by arrival method, site, and triage category, helping operational leads make resourcing decisions in real time. Let's make this real. Here's what a typical NHS analyst workflow might look like. Use SQL to extract weekly SUS data filtered for admitted pathways. Export to Excel for initial QA and categorization, e.g. adding breach reason flags. Load into Power BI to build a trust-wide dashboard showing trends, top breach reasons, and clinical lead-level drill downs. This three-step flow, SQL, Excel, Power BI, is the backbone of most NHS analytics teams. Some automations and data connections can make it a 2 or even just a 1-step operation. If you can master that workflow, you'll be able to support audit teams, performance managers, service redesign teams, and even executive decision makers. Practice task. Pull a small NHS dataset, open data or dummy RTT sample. You can use the one provided for this course. Clean it in Excel. Write a simple SQL-style query, even in plain English if you're not ready to code yet. Sketch what you'd visualize in Power BI, a simple chart or table. Reflection. Which tool do I feel most confident in today? Where do I need to grow? Discussion. Question. What's the biggest Excel or SQL pain point you've faced so far? And how did you solve it? Or would like to? You now have the foundation of your analyst toolkit. These tools aren't just about functions, they're about building trust in your insights. When a clinician sees your dashboard and changes how they deliver care, that's the impact we're here to make. In the next module, we'll move into the reality of reporting. KPIs, audits, submissions, and the mechanics of turning analysis into operational performance. Welcome to Module 4. And now the course really shifts gear. In this module, we're no longer just talking about data or tools in isolation. We're going to apply everything you've learned so far to real-world NHS scenarios. You'll see how analysts tackle common challenges in the health system: long waiting times, outpatient backlogs, admission spikes, readmissions, and even inequalities. Why? Because understanding healthcare data is one thing. Using it to make a difference is what defines a great analyst, and that's what you're here to become. Before we jump into examples, let's set your mindset. In healthcare, problems are rarely solved with a single chart or dashboard. In ED, your job is to identify the right questions, locate or extract the right data, clean, combine, and validate it, visualize or model the insight, share it in a way that drives action. The analyst mindset. How can I make this data meaningful to someone making a clinical, operational, or financial decision? There is always more than one way to look at a problem, but the mindset is key. Let's consider our first healthcare situation and apply analytics. A&E wait times are increasing. Breaches of the 4-hour target have hit 35% in your trust, well above national average. One option would be as an analyst to extract data from emergency care dataset and local pass. You can then segment by arrival mode, day of week, time of day, and discharge destination. Combining this information with bed occupancy and staffing data if available can give you valuable insights. Look for pressure points. Is it ambulance arrivals, delays in diagnostics, bed availability due to bed shortages? Visualize this in Power BI to show not just the breaches but what's truly causing them. Adding a heat map by time and location can help reveal pressure patterns. Thus, the final outcome will help you justify expanding clinical cover, redirecting minor injuries, or revising internal triage flow. Here is another situation requiring applied analytics. Your ICB has over 80,000 patients waiting beyond the 18-week referral to treatment standard. Leadership needs a breakdown by trust, specialty, and urgency. What you do as an analyst. Pull data from SUS or the local RTT pathway system. Categorize waits into different waiting time categories, e.g., under 18 weeks, 18 to 35 weeks, and so forth. Join with priority flags, P1, P4, to understand clinical urgency. Then identify specialties with the longest waits and the fastest growing lists. Use Excel to clean the dataset, Power BI to visualize weekly movement, and SQL to automate queries weekly. The outcome should support decisions on weekend clinics, outsourcing elective procedures, or shifting staff resources. Our third healthcare situation, your outpatient did not attend or DNA rate is 11%, higher than the national average. A service manager asks, "Can we fix this?" What you'd do. Use outpatient attendance data from local EPR, electronic patient register. Segment by age, gender, postcode, specialty, and time of appointment. Look for patterns. Do younger patients miss more? Are afternoon slots worse? Compare face-to-face versus virtual appointments. If you want to add a crucial extra layer, you can join this insight with deprivation data, IMD, or ethnicity to explore potential inequalities. The final outcome might recommend targeted reminder messages, virtual clinics for certain groups, or redesigning slots for high-risk DNA cohorts. Bonus: this analysis shows population health thinking, a growing area in NHS analytics. Let's now consider our final situation. A clinical director suspects your trust is underreporting strokes. Stroke alerts are being triggered, but the coded diagnoses are missing. What you do. Identify the correct ICD diagnosis. Extract recent admissions with diagnoses coded as G81, hemiplegia, I64, stroke, etc. Match these with clinical alerts or radiology logs if accessible. Look for mismatches, e.g., suspected strokes treated, but no ICD codes assigned. Work with coders and clinicians to confirm undercoding. The outcome should support improvement in documentation, recoding, and potentially brings in higher funding due to correct HRGs. Here's what separates good analysts from great ones. They ask the right questions, they challenge assumptions. They use data not just to report, but to explore. They communicate clearly and drive outcomes. By working through scenarios like these, you develop business intelligence intuition and the confidence to handle requests even when the data is incomplete or messy. You've now seen how analytics works in the wild. These scenarios reflect what real NHS analysts face every day: complexity, urgency, and the pressure to get things right. In the next module, we'll focus on engaging with stakeholders and interview preparedness, because insights only matter if they're understood, trusted, and acted upon. Welcome to Module 5, and welcome to the most exciting part of your journey so far. If you've made it to this module, it means you're ready to take your skills into the real world. This session is all about helping you prepare, perform, and succeed in interviews for healthcare data analyst roles, whether in the NHS, public health, or private healthcare settings. We'll walk through what hiring managers are really looking for, the common question types and how to answer them. Also, how to speak confidently about your experience, even if you're new. We will consider real examples of what to say and what to avoid. Enjoy. Let's start with clarity. Not all analyst roles are the same. In healthcare, you might see job titles like Information Analyst, Healthcare Data Analyst, Business Intelligence Analyst, Public Health Intelligence Officer, Performance Analyst. Tip: always read the job description closely. Are they focused on performance targets, KPIs, service redesign, audit support, or population health? Tailor your language and examples to reflect that. Key point: they're hiring you to make their data usable and actionable. Always speak with that purpose in mind. Yes, they want to see technical skills, but more importantly, they want to know. Can you understand NHS data and business rules? Can you explain your thinking clearly to non-analysts? Can you work independently, but ask the right questions when needed? Do you align with NHS values like accountability, compassion, and integrity? Remember, you're not just being hired to extract data. You're being hired to improve healthcare outcomes and pathways. Let's break down the 3 most common categories. For our first, we will consider technical questions. These check your working knowledge of tools and data logic. Here are some example questions. How would you approach analyzing A&E performance? Explain the difference between a left join and inner join. How do you calculate 18-week RTT breaches? What they're looking for: structured, step-by-step logic, experience with tools, SQL, Excel, Power BI, understanding of NHS-specific metrics or datasets. Second type of questions are competency questions. These explore how you've handled situations, using the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. Here are some example questions. Tell me about a time you spotted a data quality issue. Describe a time you worked under pressure to meet a deadline. Give an example of when your analysis changed a service or decision. What they're looking for: communication, initiative, attention to detail, evidence of collaboration and follow-through. A focus on patient care, safety, or improvement outcomes. The third area is communication and stakeholder management. These test your ability to make insights clear and usable. Here are some example questions. How would you explain a breach in cancer waiting time to a clinical lead? What would you do if your report contradicted someone else's data? How do you handle receiving unclear or last-minute requests? What they're looking for: confidence without arrogance, ability to simplify complex ideas, understanding of the pressures in a healthcare setting. Before the interview, review NHS priorities. Look at the long-term plan or trust strategy. Know your datasets, RTT, SUS, HES, ECDS, etc. Prepare at least 2-star examples, one technical, one interpersonal. Have a simple dashboard or project you can talk through if asked. During the interview, think aloud. Show your logic. Be honest if you don't know something, but share how you'd find the answer. Always tie your answers back to improving care, safety, or performance. After the interview, follow up with a brief thank you email. Reflect on what went well and where you could improve. Interviews aren't about having all the answers, they're about showing how you think, how you learn, and how deeply you care about making a difference. Throughout this course, you've seen how analysts drive impact in healthcare. And now, you're equipped not just to step into an NHS or public health role, but to thrive in it, contribute meaningfully, and grow into the analyst the system needs.